Hello, my name is Matt and today I'm going to be comparing the 2020 iPhone SE with the iPhone XR to help you determine which iPhone is better value for money or which iPhone will suit your needs better. So the iPhone SE can be picked up on Amazon renewed for about 250 quid, whilst the iPhone XR is about £270 on Amazon renewed. Usually at this stage in the video I would just make a recommendation and I would say this phone is better than the other phone. However, I think in this instance either phone is just a good buy. Whichever phone you buy you'll be happy with. However, there are some key differences between the phones, so different people will want different phones. So within this video I'm just going to highlight all the information that you need to know about each phones and sort of just make clear the differences between the phones to help you decide which one that you want for yourself. So let's start off with design, and this is the biggest difference between these two phones. The iPhone XR features the full modern full screen display with Face ID. This display is 6.1 inches and 720p. This is a really good display and is one of the best LCD displays that you can buy. Because this phone has the full screen display and it looks very modern, it definitely won't be looking outdated anytime soon, and is more of an exciting upgrade over the iPhone SE, especially if you're coming from an older iPhone, because you do get the Face ID and it is just a really cool looking phone. However, I must say the iPhone XR is humongous. If you prefer smaller phones, the SE is definitely the one to buy. For me personally, the iPhone XR is actually slightly too big. It doesn't really fit in my pockets too well and it's just a bit too big for me to hold comfortably. The iPhone XR has a glass back and a single lens camera. So the iPhone SE is the exact same design as the iPhone 8, and to be fair that shares a lot of similarities with the design of the iPhone 6. So if you're coming from an older iPhone, the iPhone SE may not feel like much of an upgrade because they're so similar. The iPhone SE has the large top and bottom bezels, however the bottom bezel is home to Touch ID and this works great. The SE has a 4.7 inch LCD display, which is pretty much the same resolution as the iPhone XR, meaning it's one of the best LCD displays on the market, but it's still not as good as an OLED panel. The back of this phone is made of glass and there's also a single lens setup. Both iPhones also support Qi wireless charging. So in my opinion, I would say that in the design category, the iPhone XR wins here. It's a lot more exciting than the iPhone SE and you're getting a full screen modern design that definitely won't be looking outdated for a long time. So moving on to performance. The performance between these two phones is very similar, but the iPhone SE definitely wins. The iPhone XR is powered by the A12 chip, whilst the iPhone SE is powered by the A13 chip. Both phones have 3GB of RAM. So the A12 chip was released in 2018 and the A13 chip was released in 2019. Therefore the iPhone SE is most likely to receive an extra year of software support over the iPhone XR. So if you want to buy a phone that's just going to last you the longest, then the iPhone SE is the better pick. The performance differences in daily tasks is less noticeable. Apple claims that the A13 chip is about 20% faster whilst using less power, but whilst doing daily tasks it's not very noticeable. Both phones are really quick in 2021 and can run any game and app on the App Store easily. Swiping between pages on the home page is very smooth and fast, and app loading time is very similar. So right now the performance differences between these two phones isn't massive, but the reason the iPhone SE wins is because of the slightly improved speed means that it's likely to stay faster for longer and receive more software support. So moving on to camera, I would say visually when looking at the photos and videos of these two phones it's a draw. Technically the iPhone SE is better than the iPhone XR, but I wouldn't say it's really anything that you'll notice. Both cameras have a 12 megapixel single lens setup. Apple claims that the SE is more advanced as it has the A13 processor, which enables improved image processing over the iPhone XR. Unfortunately, I'm unable to provide any direct comparison photos, but here are photos taken on each phone, and you can see they just both do a really good job at taking photos. Whilst they're not the best phone cameras in 2021, they're more than good enough at capturing your memories. I do think that the photos look very similar, especially since they've both got a single lens setup. So video recording on these phones are very similar. They can both record 4K video at 60 frames per second, and the difference is just I don't think are noticeable. The front facing cameras are both very similar. They can both take 7 megapixel selfies and 1080p video. I think if you're deciding between these two phones, cameras shouldn't be a huge deciding factor, as they're both just so similar. So whatever phone you buy, the camera's going to be really great and very similar between the two. So let's finish up with battery. For battery life, the iPhone XR is a clear winner. So the iPhone SE has a 1800 mAh battery, which is a relatively small battery. For the iPhone SE, this small battery isn't a huge deal breaker. The A13 chip is relatively efficient, and the small screen means that the iPhone SE doesn't actually need to draw too much power. However, it definitely isn't a phone that will last you longer than one day. So with the iPhone SE, I was able to get between 4 and 5 hours of screen on time a day, with kind of varied tasks, just using it throughout the day. The iPhone XR has a considerably larger battery in its 2900 mAh. Whilst this battery does have to power a larger display and less efficient processor, it definitely overall does give you considerably better battery life than the iPhone SE. The iPhone XR can pretty easily get you through a full day, and is kind of borderlining that 1.5 day sort of usage before you need to be charging it up. Whilst using a used iPhone XR, I was able to average 6 to 7 hours of screen on time with kind of varied tasks again. So yeah, I do think that the iPhone XR is the battery life champ. So to conclude, both of these phones are really good phones and great buys in 2021, especially if you can get a really good used price. If you want the smaller phone, then the iPhone SE is the one to buy. If you want a more modern phone, then you go for the XR. If you want just a phone that's going to last you the longest, then the iPhone SE is the one to buy. If you want the phone that's going to last you the longest battery life wise, then you want the iPhone XR. And the cameras really are so similar that they're not really something that should be taken into consideration when deciding between the two phones. I hope you enjoyed this video and it was informative. Thank you very much for watching. All the best.